I recently got a lot of criticism for this video where I talked about the pros and cons of electric cars and why I wouldn't buy one yet. I was accused of spreading misinformation and actively convincing people to not buy an EV, and I've got a few things to say in response to that. Hello people of the internet, I'm Nico and here's everything explained from my point of view. But before I get started, I should say that criticism is always welcomed. It keeps me in check and anyone else watching the video can then get more information from reading those comments. Also, having debates is a great way to learn as your beliefs and knowledge are tested, so please keep commenting. But I digress. I was accused of spreading misinformation and otherwise spreading information that was out of context, and now I'm going to address those comments. For starters, one of my claims that was disputed was the price difference between EVs and gas cars. I stated, quote, "Currently the average price of an EV is $54,000, almost $10,000 more than the average new car price in the United States." That statement was true at the time I made the video. Since then the price has gone up, so the difference is less than 10 grand. The real issue, however, is the comparison. The average new car price includes all cars, meaning EVs as well, so it would have been better to compare the average gas car price versus the average EV price. However, as building a battery pack for a Tesla Model S is something like $13,200, it's still quite clear that EVs are notably more expensive than their gasoline-powered counterparts. Of course, that is for the upfront price. EVs are cheaper to maintain, which was something that the people in the comments made sure to point out to me. Another point they made was that EV production was initially targeted for luxury vehicles, but I beg to differ as the Tesla Model S came out in 2012, 2 years after the Nissan Leaf debuted. Now, the EVs that got the most attention were indeed luxury cars, so I can see where the point came from, especially since there has been a progression to make cheaper EVs, but the fact remains that EVs are still more expensive to buy as of right now. The next point that was argued against was my claim that gas-powered cars are more efficient at higher speeds. If you look at MPG, the industry standard for measuring fuel efficiency, you'll see that internal combustion engine cars are more efficient in highway driving than they are in city driving, and EVs are the other way around. But this person pointed out that the best way to measure efficiency is in kilowatt hours, not miles per gallon. I will concede that he is right there, and two things happen when you switch the measurements. One, you see just how efficient EVs are, and two, you finally understand where the MPGe figure comes from, all of which I'll go through in my next video on the common misconceptions of EVs. Where EVs fall short is their energy carrying capacity. EVs are more efficient and they need to be because they cannot hold much energy compared to a gas-powered car. If you don't know, a gallon of gasoline contains about 33 kilowatt hours of energy, and if you take a smart car, which holds about 8.7 gallons, and do some math, you'll discover that when filled up, it can hold 287 kilowatt hours of energy, which for context is almost 3 times the energy capacity of a Tesla Model S. Moving on, my next claim this person took issue with was that EVs aren't as clean as they're often made out to be. But it's the truth, EVs aren't as clean as they're often advertised as, and it's simply because here in the US a lot of electricity is made using fossil fuels. That being said, even with the electricity being produced by fossil fuels, EVs still end up having a smaller carbon footprint than internal combustion engine cars after a life of driving. Also, if you factor in the process of producing gasoline, then EVs have a far smaller carbon footprint. Watch my next video and I'll prove it. My next point, which was on charging stations not working, I will not concede, however, because I provided evidence to back up my case. The study I referenced stated that in San Francisco, nearly 25% of the charging stations were out of order during the time of the study. The person who commented in response to this apparently never had a charger that wasn't working. And okay, if 25% are out of order, that still means that the majority of chargers would work, but my case still stands. I provided evidence of a large percentage of chargers not working, and there have been plenty of other people to showcase similar experiences. But not everyone will have the same experience, so maybe you won't have this problem. On the topic of chargers, I also stated that charging takes longer than refueling with gasoline. More specifically, I stated that a road trip could take an hour longer in an EV. Certainly possible, depending on exactly how long the road trip is, but it's definitely a bit misleading as fast chargers can now get you 200 miles of range in 15 minutes. But again, my point still stands as charging an EV does take longer than refueling with gasoline. There was a lot more back and forth, which you can see in the comment section of that video. I pinned his first comment, so if you're interested in reading the debate, then you can easily find it. A lot of points in my videos certainly deserve more context, but the point of that video was also to highlight my personal reasons for not buying an EV. So of course it would sound like I was just trying to convince people to not buy an electric vehicle. And another thing to understand is that when you make videos as short as mine are, a lot of information has to be left out, otherwise my videos would be 20 to 30 minutes long. And a lot of people can justify spending 5 to 10 minutes on a video, but justifying 20 to 30 minutes is a lot harder. The topic of electric cars is extensive, so to keep my videos short, I'm going to have to cut out a lot of information. In fact, the only thing that was close to being wrong was my explanation of electric motors, but that was only because I didn't add in the detail of how the switching of the magnetic fields causes the rotor to spin. I want to say a quick thanks to the people who commented and debated with me. I certainly need to be more careful with the wording to not allow for misinterpretation. Let me know in the comments below what's the most intense debate you've ever gotten into. If you want to see my video on the misconceptions of EVs when it comes out, then consider subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind later. Until next time, people of the internet, peace out.